G'day and welcome to another episode of Cuppa with the Jesuit. I'm Father Robin Koning, the Provincial's Assistant for Vocations for the Australian Jesuit Province.
And with Father Robin, I'm Julian Butler, a Jesuit in formation, and we're joined today by Father Michael Ryan. Father Michael, welcome.
Thanks, fellas. Thanks.
Michael, would you tell us a little bit about your current ministry at Campion Retreat Centre in Melbourne?
Yeah, sure. Good to see you both. Yes, I'm at Campion. I'm a member of the Campion Jesuit community in Kew, and it's almost a Catholic sort of hill up here. We're flanked by Xavier College Junior School and the wonderful Carmelite Convent, just about on our back fence, and then a Caritas Christi home for the palliative care. Somehow or other, I seem to have some activities with those communities. But here at Campion, over the last 2 or 3 years, my focus has been to look after coordinating the activities of the Campion Centre of Ignatian Spirituality, and I have a wonderful team of spiritual directors. We've moved a little bit from offering retreats, live-in retreats here. They're really, we move out for those into different other retreat houses. But there's a lot of spiritual direction going on here. The spiritual directors have now resumed, more so from having had to use Zoom over the last couple of years. So it's wonderful to see the little community coming back, reassembling. We meet together for Mass in a day or so, and it'll be only the second time that we've been able to have our monthly meeting together. So we'll have a lovely chinwag and shindig and celebrate Eucharist, and then followed by a meal together. And I find it very encouraging, enlivening. So that's the ministry here. And we're helped immensely by the Jesuit Ignatian Spirituality Australia with their resources. They sort of funnel applications, interests, intentions, expressions of interest to me, and we move from there. And in the midst of that, I'm part of a small Jesuit community, although a number of our older members are part of Campion, but they're in houses of or in aged care facilities where they get more care than they're able to here. So we've got about six Jesuits here at Campion.
Michael, your spirituality work, it's something in more recent years you've been involved in. For much of your life, you were involved in education work, in our schools ministry in particular. You want to say a bit about that and what gave you life and energy in the education work?
Yes, that's right, Robin. I suppose when I think about it, I probably had 10 years in 3 of our schools in New South Wales, South Australia, and here in Melbourne. At least 10 years in each of those schools. But I was afforded wonderful opportunities soon after ordination and tertianship, that final year of studies, or 7 months of studies, to go to what was called Baby Headmaster School in the States at Fordham. These Jesuits, ex-principals and what have you, who felt they had something to share with those coming on after them. And it was a wonderful experience. So that gave me a little bit of background. I'd done my DEPAD, my BA DEPAD, of course, at university. And this was an opportunity that was given me soon after I'd had a few years teaching as a Jesuit in Sydney. Wonderful years. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And as a teaching history and English and RE, and but maybe small amounts of that because I was the Year 10 coordinator at St. Aloysius in Milsons Point, and really kept you very busy. So they were full days. But no, I've been afforded really many wonderful opportunities across those 3 schools, and great love for that, and it's very stimulating, wonderful parent involvement and what have you. So yeah, it came to an end. I had 10 years as rector at Xavier, as Julian well knows, and I had a little tragedy in my family at that time, and I was given a little bit of time off, and I went to Seven Hill, which was extraordinary, and grew in a love for that. And that was the beginnings of sort of the last 10 or 12 years of being associated with the ministry of spirituality, whether it's been the ministry of the exercises and the various forms that might take, the outreaches that are part and parcel of Campion in particular have been giving me that sort of opportunity. In fact, the last couple of days I've been very much involved with our outreach called the long-standing Corpus Christi community at Greenvale, which is an institution run now by the Archdiocese of Melbourne in conjunction with Villa Maria Catholic Homes. But the Society of Jesus is very much involved with its commitment there with a couple of our volunteers who well, more than volunteers, have been there for years, and but we work with that institution. I've had a couple of visits out there in the last couple of days, and there are about 90 men out there. It's part of our Ignatian outreach of this place. It's part of Campion's ministry, and it does involve, in fact, first spiritual exercises and a lot of spirited conversation and with the men. It's been a long-standing, early 70s when Mother Teresa and the Society of Jesus initiated this work again with the Archdiocese of Melbourne's blessing and what have you. And it's wonderful to think it still not just survives, but flourishes. Yeah. Mm.
Father Michael, something that seems to be running through experience in schools and spirituality ministry, and including at Corpus Christi, is a sense of community and being a Jesuit in community. Would you tell us a little bit about what that experience has been for you, of being what you've brought as a Jesuit to community and what you've received as a Jesuit in communities?
You know, I suppose I immediately say I've been very fortunate in community. I feel that, you know, and as I see the diminishment in a way, I'm in an older community now. I've been in some very vibrant communities, especially in the schools, and of course it's very much associated with lay colleagues that we work with, and I've always found that putting in that situation is very fulfilling, and so yes, community as a support, there's no doubt about that, and strong leadership from good superiors over the years. I think I've had some wonderful superiors, and that helps too. So, you know, generous men, as far as the Jesuits and our colleagues are concerned, really living that spirit of generosity, which is so fundamental to our spirituality. I can still see you, Julian, out there as one wonderful thing in the schools at Xavier, when I was especially at Xavier and the other schools too, the capacity of our students to be able to say the prayer of teaching me to be generous. Lord, teach me to be generous, teach me to serve you as you deserve. And, you know, to have the school community lift their voices in that, and knowing full well that it's not just words, actions speak louder than words. And there was always that commitment in the school. So it's a wonderful spirituality of generosity, and keeping the dialogue going with our workers and those for whom we're there in the ministry. So yeah, community, not just in the ordinary bread and butter and every day of support in that way. And it's an extraordinary gift, that one too. I mean, I was just thinking, going out to Greenvale today, the 45-minute drive out there and the 45-minute drive back, both days, that is a lot of so many. it's a stability in a sense that we have in community that allows us to be available and please God, to continue to be generous with the grace of God. You know, we live by that faith and we grow in it. And faith alone, I'm so grateful for the faith that has been handed on to me by so many, you know, from family right through to the communities that I serve and give me life.
Michael, your own journey with Jesuit education began at the receiving end of that education, didn't it? And
It did,
is
indeed,
that,
yeah.
and I presume that's where your own sense of Jesuit vocation grew. Could you tell us something about your own vocation story?
Yes, indeed. Well, I put away the experience of a Methodist kindergarten when I was 4 years old. I seem to have been with Xavier ever since. I'm on the board now. But I, in fact, am a product of Jesuit education at Xavier right through, and even to the extent of calling it, having a graduation at grade 1 from lower grade 1 to higher grade 1. I think it was done in the space of 1 year. So I had a sense that we could achieve things. But no, you're quite right, Robin. You've thrown that line out to me, and it's quite right. I mean, I had a lot of contact with a lot of Jesuits over the years, and you can't help but say, and you know their commitment to what they were doing. So right from the start, whether it was some very fine scholastics down there at Costco, maybe only appreciating it when you got to about grade, you know, the higher primary, maybe 5, 6, 7, and what have you, before you went to the big school at Kew. But that was very important. So good leadership from rectors and principals of the schools. Admittedly, there were a lot more Jesuits in those days, but and that was the way it was. So you lived with them and were inspired in that respect. So I have to say that, you know, companionship in that regard from pretty early on, and then not only continued, well, yeah, especially at high school level, at what we called intermediate, about year 10. And that was particularly important. Those I suppose, yes, indeed, spiritual conversations, but also involvement in activities, devotional activities, whether they were devotional activities or whether it was, you know, sodalities and what have you, or whether it was the experience of, you know, a faith in action sort of thing. And so I'd say, yes, there's no doubt about it. I don't regret in the least that I joined straight after school, but you know, it's been afforded. I've been afforded so much, and not so much a natural progression, but that's the way the Lord's calling was. And I much really solid family life. I know I left there when I was 18, but nevertheless, it was very important. Growing up with brothers and sisters and very supportive parents, you know, right through.
Michael, given that experience that you had and your experience of ministry since, if a young man came to you today and was interested in religious life, or, you know, maybe particularly the Jesuits, what might you say to him?
Well, I'd be very encouraging, I think, of, and, you know, sadly it hasn't happened so often in the last few years. I suppose I've been more acting with adults, but I do think the experience of community life is rich, and pursue that faith. Obviously, faith has brought that person to, and maybe the person of Jesus in particular has drawn the, you know, either something in scripture or something. So I'd be encouraging knowledge of the scriptures, a deeper appreciation of the capacity to go aside and to see what in silence, in solitude, I can, you know, what I encounter. And I think in particular, the business of life has taken so many young people in all sorts of directions, and often enough to very wonderful lives of service and love. But there is there is something in the Society of Jesus that is offering too. And if there was a glimpse of that, maybe I could serve as possibly being called to a Jesuit, then I'd foster it by conversation, by encourage it by prayer in particular, that there is something that Jesus is calling you to, and really encourage that spirit of generosity, I think.
That's great, Michael. Really appreciate your giving us time this afternoon to share something of your story and your encouragement to those who might be considering a similar path. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, Jeremy.